Good evening, everyone. We'll give folks a couple more minutes to join us here in the webinar, and then we will get started. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our Tiger Talk for the evening. This one is our family to family panel. So for folks who have joined us in the past or for folks who haven't, this is part of our Tiger Talk parent and family webinar series as part of our parent and family orientation process. So we know that in addition to the virtual orientation platform, and in addition to the Ready, Set, Roar in-person experience that maybe some of you have attended, we wanted to offer this as a way to go a little bit more in depth. Those platforms don't always allow us to spend quite as much face time going into particular topics. And so wanted to make sure that as part of your experience, as you transition into Clemson along with your student, you had the chance to hear a little bit more from folks in a accessible format throughout the summer. And so this is our fifth, I believe, Tiger Talk of the summer. And this one is focused on family to family engagement. So particularly we have some panelists that you see here on your screen from our Clemson Family Ambassador Board, as well as some of our orientation ambassadors who will share their experiences with you all tonight. So we will continue those introductions in just a minute. I'll give each of them a chance to tell you who they are. We then, in lieu of a formal presentation, will spend the rest of the time sharing in a panel discussion. So I'll talk a little bit more about how we'll do that in just a moment, but essentially you will submit questions that maybe you've been wondering about or could use a current parent or current student perspective on. We'll get those answered and use the rest of that time to, again, do just that and then wrap up with some final reminders there at the end. Next slide, John. Perfect. So this is a Zoom webinar. I imagine many of you are more familiar than you ever wanted to be with this platform, but just a few reminders in case you've not used this before. So super similar to a regular Zoom meeting, although you'll see that audio and video has been muted just to keep things running smoothly. You'll notice on your screen as well that this is being recorded. So if you miss a part of an answer at any point or want to go back and watch or have friends who maybe want to go back and watch, you are welcome to do that. The way that'll work is we will finish the session tonight. That recording will process and then at next couple of days, we will then publish that to our Clemson Family Programs YouTube page and then send out that link through the Clemson Parent and Family Experience portal. So Alexa, if you don't mind going ahead and sending both of those links, we'll send one to our Clemson Family Programs YouTube page where you can find all the other Tiger Talks from the summer. And then again, we will send an email with this link specifically through the Clemson Parent and Family Experience portal, typically in the next week following the session. All right, so you'll see as well on your toolbar there at the bottom or the top of your screen, depending on your Zoom, a little question and answer feature. If you will please use that tool specifically to submit any questions that you have, that is the portal that we're all going to be looking at throughout the night to make sure that we can see what you're asking. And we will either in the moment answer those questions by typing back a response, or for many of them, we will answer them live. So we'll mark that we'll answer them live, and then our ambassadors here will jump in offering their perspective on the question, and then we will move along from there. Any that we don't get to for any reason by the end, we will take some time again in the next week to follow up with you all specifically on the answers to those questions. All right, at this point, I will pass it over to our panelists to offer their introduction. So we will start with our Clemson Family Ambassador Board members here tonight. Robin?
Good evening, everyone from Anderson, South Carolina. I am Robin Stringer. I am the current board chair for the Clemson Family Ambassador Board. I've been exactly where you have been if you're new to Clemson, and been here for quite a while now. I have 3 students that have graduated from Clemson and 1 that is a current junior. And my piece of advice is to keep your communication lines open with your students. Make sure that you realize this is a time of transition for both of you. You're learning how to have maybe an empty nest, certainly an empty spot at your dinner table. And that can be a difficult thing to deal with, but because it's the first time maybe for them to be away like this. They're learning how to be young adults, how to be on their own. So you have to learn how to respect that. So but keep your communication open. I recommend finding a specific time. I think we've heard this from our OAs too, from their perspective as well. It's very helpful to know that not to text them every time you think of them. It's hard not to do that unless that's something that you agree upon. But just set up some time that you know is the right time that you both agree on, that you want to talk or check in. Maybe it's a Sunday afternoon before the week gets started. But just respect those boundaries a little bit, and don't get your feelings hurt. They got to grow up, and you got to learn how to let them do it.
Awesome. Shay?
Hello, everyone. I am Shay Razakis. Like Robin, I am also from Anderson. And if you're not familiar with South Carolina, that's about 20 miles down the road from where Clemson is. I have 2 students at Clemson right now. I have a 5th-year senior who is a management major. And last summer, I was sitting in the seats where you are. I have a rising sophomore who is pre-business right now, but she intends to be a marketing major. My word of advice that I would give to parents of incoming students for Clemson is to encourage your student to take advantage of all of the resources available through the Academic Success Center. The types of things that your student can access there are academic coaching, which, if you're not familiar with that term, that's really the role that you have probably been fulfilling as your student has gone through elementary and middle and high school, really helping them figure out what assignments they have upcoming, how they're going to prepare for them, maybe how they're going to break them down and make them more manageable, those sorts of time management, project management type things that as a new student in college, they may not be quite prepared for. There are also things like success strategy workshops and jumpstart workshops that your student will have heard about, but they have peer assisted learning, which is sort of a group tutoring setup where a student that has previously taken the course and done very well in it sort of manages a tutoring session with students that are currently in that class. They also can connect you with one-on-one tutoring, and then they are also the place that you would go to find out about student accessibility services. Both of my students receive accommodations. My daughter has a learning disability, and my son has ADHD. And so they both went through the Student Accessibility Services program housed in the Academic Success Center to receive their accommodations and get set up for that for their academic year.
Awesome. Next up is Doug.
Yeah, hi, my name is Doug Meyer. I'm from Decula, Georgia, and I have a daughter who is a rising senior in the marketing program at Clemson. And I think my piece of advice really has to do, again, it's with communication. I know that all of you love your student and want to support your student to success, and just realize that your student is 18 or 19 years old and they're going to make some mistakes, and maybe they're going to get in some trouble, and they're going to do some things that just you want to go, oh, like what, how, why? But when they call you to talk about these things, make sure that you make that a safe call for them. Make sure that you're frustrated, maybe there's some consequences, that can all wait. Listen to them, help support them in their time of need, because you want them to call you again next time. So you want to make sure that you are that sounding board, that you are that support system, so that they want to come to you and they feel safe to come to you, even when it's not great news.
Awesome. Great words, Doug. I think the Tuckers had to duck out for a little bit, so let's move along to our orientation ambassadors. Octavia, you want to kick us off?
Of course. Hi, everybody. I am Octavia Fab. I'm a senior psychology major, minoring in anthropology. I'm from Greenville, South Carolina. And my words of advice for parents as a current student myself is to trust your students. I know my dad wasn't too nervous when I came to college, but my mom, she always worries about me. I love her. She wants the best for me, but she was just like, I'm so nervous for you. I don't know anybody there. And I just had to reassure her that she raised me very well, and also with the right resources, I know how to handle myself, and just to trust that process and trust me as well.
Julia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Harbour. I'm a sophomore double majoring in sports communication and biology. I also have a minor in digital production arts. I'm from Albany, New York. My words of advice would just be to have as much fun as your students. Try and get up here to visit campus if that's something you're able to do. Kind of, I would say, like, as much as you and your student agree upon. Definitely try and get up to some of our athletic events and some of our general events to just spend time up here and bond with your students. I would also say really encourage them to keep checking their Clemson email. A lot of opportunities, especially in the beginning of the semester, will come to them through that Clemson email. And I know a lot of people who have missed out on some like really cool things, just because they haven't really looked at their email. So that's my advice.
Awesome. And then John.
Hey y'all, my name is John Allensworth. I'm a sophomore political science major from Aiken, South Carolina. And my word of advice for incoming parents and families is to make sure that you are just there for your student in all manners. For me, like my parents, like they both know, like I will call them and both of them always ask me, is this where we're actually trying to figure out a solution to a problem? Is this where we're just venting? So for me, just communication with my parents was such an important thing to me, but also having a time set up that they knew I was going to call them. Like my mom required a little bit more, like me and her, like we were so close together. We always had like everyday conversations, but we always had at least one day we had set aside. She knew I was going to call her. Whereas my dad, I called him more just randomly because our communication is much more, we know we're tight, like we know we're great. So I would just say make sure that you have a good system of making sure you're at least talking to one another about when you're going to talk next is my big piece of advice.
Awesome. Great words, y'all. All right, we will now move into the rest of our Q&A portion for the rest of the evening. Remember, you will just submit those questions using that Q&A function at the very bottom of the toolbar. As those are coming in, why don't we start, Robin? You always have great thoughts on this topic. Can you share a little bit about the healthcare services that are offered at Clemson?
Sure. So on Clemson, on the campus, there is the Health Service Center, which is called Red Fern. That's where the students go for if they're sick, if they have prescriptions to be refilled. There's mental health counselors there as well. And Red Fern is accredited just like a regular hospital. So they're well-versed in what's needed. We've also expanded to have telehealth with the Medical University of South Carolina that helps after hours. The mental health program has been expanded as well as for counselors. So help is a very important concept here at Clemson, not just at the Redfern Health Campus, but there's a lot of safety things as well that's tied into that, including I am so sorry, the Narcan that we have on campus. That's hopefully we will never need that, but it's there as a safety precaution. So I think you should feel that your student will be safe here, will be healthy, to able to be seen, whether it's just a regular visit for a health check or if they're actually sick with the flu, or if they need a shot, they can get it all there at Redfern.
Awesome. And a quick follow-up to that one, Shay, wondering if you have any experience here. Can students go to Redfern for checkups or evaluations for ADHD diagnosis or anything else of that sort?
I don't know if they can go to Redfern for diagnosis, but I'm sure that they can certainly be referred from there. But when you are coming to student accessibility services, you will need to have a documented disability. They do ask you to submit that paperwork as part of their initial evaluation to determine what accommodations would be appropriate for your student.
Awesome.
Casey, can I just add one thing?
Absolutely.
Particularly for out-of-state students, there are urgent care facilities around town, and they're fine to go to. There's no problem. But if you're out of state, chances are your insurance is not going to be accepted at those. And so if your student goes for something, minor, you still may end up with a $700-800 bill. So using Redfern really makes a lot of sense. And again, particularly if you're out of state, you can save yourself some real money.
Agreed. All right, looking at our other questions here, I know we've got a couple about move-in, which is coming up quickly. Let's see. Wondering about the assigned time, the process to bring in items. Can you all share a little bit about how that day works and what they can expect for the fall move-in process?
Yeah, Casey. So my move-in experience was very well put together. We had no complaints about when we moved in. So basically, the time that you get given is the time they want you to be at their at the tent, getting your housing keys, everything there, not at the building, but at the tent, getting your key, the thing that you hang in your car to make sure they don't tow you, stuff like that. So it's very important to go there and also follow the one they send you in your email. Please don't try to navigate yourself. If you're a Clemson alumni or if you know Clemson, there will be roads going completely different directions. There will be roads. They have move-in during Clemson is they change the whole entire city. So it's honestly really hectic, but it's so well organized and it'll be a great experience for you. I would just recommend bringing something to help carry things with you. So maybe bring a dolly, maybe bring something that you wouldn't necessarily think to bring, because we do have some provided, but there isn't one for every single student that moves into the building. So I would recommend bringing one of your own because that made our move-in process a lot easier.
Awesome. Any other move-in tips?
Oh, yes, I would like to add something, Casey.
Mhm.
So I am a current residential community mentor, which is basically like an RA, and I work at Clemson Home. And basically what John was saying about getting there is going to be a lot of signage, and Clemson Home should provide you with a map of how to get to whatever residential hall you'll go to, and also like be there at the tent at the specific time, because there is a 30-minute window you have to get your student stuff in the building, and it kind of runs so everybody has a chance to get to their destination. Also, piece of advice of what to bring. I bring like a fan, a wagon, and also a rubber mallet just to help with de-lofting the bed. Again, Clemson Home does provide all those things, but they may not be available at the time you do need it.
One thing I know Octavia just mentioned this super brief, but I see a question in here about this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Octavia, but so the time that you receive for your move-in time, that is the time that you should be at the parking lot that they kind of designed for you guys, to pick up your keys and get those unloading passes. So that's the time that you should arrive there.
So that's not to say that you only have that amount of time to exist on campus, to clarify.
Yeah, I just add, pack your patience. It's going to be 110 degrees. It's a very emotional day for everybody. And I would say for parents, if you're planning a big going away dinner, do that the night before, because once moving occurs, once everything is gone across the threshold, you're pretty much not needed anymore, because that's the first moment of freedom for your student. And they're so excited, and everyone else has just arrived. They're gonna want to go experience their first hours at Clemson. So just kind of anticipate that. They love you, but you're done that day.
Well, and as I said, we just did this move-in process last year. And I know that it seems really intimidating, thinking that, you know, you've got just a very short amount of time to get through this whole process and get your stuff unloaded and get it into the dorm room and everything. You are going to be so surprised and pleased with how smoothly it goes. We didn't have any hiccups, and you know, there was certainly no special treatment because of being on the ambassador board or anything like that. It was just, everything was so well arranged and just so well handled and laid out. I think you're really going to be pleased. So don't stress about it. It's really going to come off just fine.
Clemson has it down to a science. I mean, it just really runs smoothly. The 30-minute window, if you feel like you're not going to have the time, you have an opportunity to unload your car at the dorm. Make sure that whatever you bring that is labeled with your student's name and their dorm, their room number, so that if you, when you're coming back down, if everyone has similar looking packages, which that this, you know, you just want to make sure you've got everything labeled. I recommend using plastic tubs or these new bags that they have now that they didn't have when my kids moved in, that are really tough and they can fold real small. The OAs, do you know what I'm talking about? What are those called?
I think you're talking about the big blue IKEA bags. That's what I
Yes.
personally use, and they're just the easiest.
Yes, those are better than the tubs, probably, if you plan to leave the bag there with your student. But just as long as, and we took our own hand trucks, and that was super beneficial to have those. So definitely want something to help carry the load for you.
Awesome. All right, a couple of questions that I see here, somewhat relevant to our family weekend. So gonna touch on that for just a little bit. So one says, how or when do we sign up to attend various family weekend events? Not the football game, but other activities. Great question. So we actually open registration for Fall Family Weekend next Wednesday. So July, I believe that is the 24th. Yes. We will open registration for that event, and that will take place on the Clemson Parent and Family Experience portal as well. So that same tool we mentioned a couple of times in terms of what to look for to find this recording later. That also is how we manage all of our event registration. So next Wednesday is when we'll open registration for that event. And you are correct, that is separate from the football game. So we manage the programming that sort of surrounds the game and the rest of that weekend. And so we typically have a long check-in on Friday, a couple options Friday evening for families. So a family reception, trivia, movie night will all take place Friday. Academic colleges host events that afternoon typically. So some sort of open house connected to the college that your student is a part of will take place Friday. Saturday, we have our big Tiger Family tailgate. I will say the time for that is TBD until we know the actual game time, which will be a little bit at this point, but that's also always our big event on that Saturday. And then Sunday, we will wrap things up with our family farewell brunch. So that schedule, as well as the different package options, how to register, all of that will be on that same website, that Clemson Parent Family Experience portal, next Wednesday. In terms of the game itself, tickets for that game are on sale now. We sent a link through the portal not too long ago with the link to that particular site, but those can also be found on Clemson's main site on Ticketmaster for those of you who want to attend the game that weekend. So September 20th to the 22nd is our Fall Family Weekend. And again, we'll open registration for that next Wednesday. Somewhat along those lines, CFAB, any perspective on when to fly in Fall Family Weekend or homecoming? Or neither of those weekends? What would you recommend?
I would come in Thursday if at all possible, because there's always events on Friday, especially like when you talk about homecoming, there's parades, there's floats, all kinds of things there. Fall Family Weekend, a lot of times on Fridays, there's events with the fraternities or sororities. We'll have special things for parents. There are open houses in some of the colleges around campus. So there's a lot to do on Friday. So if you can get your traveling done on Thursday and stick around until Sunday afternoon, I think you'll have a really good experience.
Awesome. And I see another question here about the tickets to that game. It is, I've not checked it today. It's possible that tickets on that particular page are sold out. So that particular block of tickets that you likely are referencing from the Family Weekend site. I don't believe that includes all tickets available though. So I think at this point, if that's what you're seeing on that particular page, any tickets through Clemson Athletics, you can go to that website or call 1-800-Clemson would be available for that game as well. Let's see.
There's also a pretty active Ticketmaster. You can get tickets. So that's not going to be a problem. SeatGeek, Ticketmaster is the official resale partner for Clemson. So there will be seats available.
Let's see, I'm scrolling through. Just while we're on the topic, knowing that we will find ourselves here at some point. Julia, would you please share any other ways or any other tips when it comes to students and families getting football tickets?
Yes. So, one thing I like to talk about a lot is IPTAY. So that here at Clemson, IPTAY is our major fundraising organization, I like to say. So IPTAY is for both parents and families and just fans of Clemson, and then it's also for the students. It's their main goal is just to support student athletes and kind of support them in the classroom and also on the fields. Just help boost our athletics as well. So for a student sense, the most important thing for students in an IPTAY perspective would be the collegiate club. So that's kind of the student branch of IPTAY. So that requires a membership to join. The membership can be $150 for all 4 years or $50 per year. So if you do that $150, you kind of get like a year free essentially. So basically when you join that club, you just get a bunch of benefits and access to different things. So there's a bunch of events we hold at like the Little John Coliseum. We also do a football event that like you can come, students can come, they can win prizes, great events like that you have to be an IPTAY member to attend. And then there's also benefits like our Clemson Plus streaming, and they can just get access to other resources that only IPTAY members can have. But mainly for athletics and football particularly, in order for a student to get season tickets, they would need to be an IPTAY member. So that is one of the big pluses of that. So for incoming freshmen, I'm not, maybe Casey or someone on here knows, but I'm not aware if we still have any season tickets left. So you would need to join IPTAY if you're interested in that. Those would be upper deck season tickets at this point. However, IPTAY would also be great if you weren't into season tickets, because the other way students can get tickets is through our student ticket lottery. So basically how that works is in the beginning of August, all students should receive an email to their Clemson email regarding the lottery and how to sign up and everything. So keep an eye out for that. And so once they sign up, their name will be entered into the lottery, and that works on a point system. So essentially freshmen will have 1 point, sophomores 2, then 3, then 4. However, if you join IPTAY, your points will double. So essentially like a freshman who's in IPTAY, instead of having 1 point, still have 2, so they'll equal a sophomore. But then if you're a sophomore in IPTAY, you'll be equivalent to a senior. So that'll help you just have more opportunities and more chances to get tickets. And the lottery just kind of varies on like the student specifically. I know people who have gotten almost all of the games. I know people who have gotten maybe 1 or 2. It just kind of all depends. But joining IPTAY really gives your students a higher chance of getting those tickets. And then if they don't get those tickets, there's a ton of ways they can also look for tickets. A lot of students use GroupMe's and different group chats. And they'll like people who have students season tickets will always sell them. So your students should not be stressed at all if they enter the lottery and they don't receive as many tickets as they were hoping for. But then for parents and families and guests, there's an opportunity for you all also to join IPTAY. And that kind of works a little differently. So that's basically a monetary donation. And then just depending on that donation is the level of IPTAY member you will be and the benefits that will come with it. There's actually a chart, I can try and link it in the chat. There's a chart online, I believe, if you Google just like membership levels, Clemson, like IPTAY, it should come up and it'll tell you like all of the different things you'll receive for the different membership levels. I know you can get like parking, you can get like tickets to football, like different things just depending on what level you are.
And I just found that chart. I'll send that in the chat now.
And I think going off what Julia said, I'm pretty sure that when we last heard from the IPTAY team, which was back in May during our training, so it could have changed by now, but I'm pretty sure they still have a couple, I think they told us they still have some upper deck season tickets reserved for freshmen, but it might have changed depending on demand from the other classes though.
Yeah, if your students are interested in that, I would definitely try and reach out to them as quickly as possible. I know we've been having already several sessions over the summer and a lot of those students have been signing up. So I would just look into that as soon as you can. Another thing I like to mention is about all of the rest of our athletics. So basketball, like baseball, soccer, gymnastics, everything else, all the other sports are all free admission for students just with their Clemson ID. So they'll just go and just scan in at the event and they can get in those in our student section and our designated areas included in their tuition. And another thing about those events is this is just kind of another opportunity that students have to get tickets for football games specifically. So how our football tickets work now, you have to go to our Little John Coliseum where our basketball teams play and pick up a wristband. So that's how students will get their tickets. So they have to do that by at about 4 p.m. on Friday. And the students who don't pick up their wristbands, all of those extra ones, athletics will take those and they will bring them to any event. So if there's a soccer game that night, gymnastics, meet, any of that, and they'll put an announcement out to the students and say, we have maybe 30 extra football tickets. They will be at the soccer game. And students can go to that event and there's a really big line usually. But that's another way that students can kind of get football tickets. One of our orientation ambassadors, she said that she never got any tickets to the football games, but was able to go to every single home game just by going to get those leftover tickets. So that's another option too.
Also, to go based on what Julia said, I personally didn't buy any tickets. I've gotten 3 free tickets just by being part of an organization. They also hold a lottery, so please encourage your students to get involved in clubs and orgs.
Yeah, and parents, just don't underestimate the rest of the Clemson athletics. I mean, there's so much fun. Men's soccer's won national championship 2 out of the last 3 years. Baseball went to the super regional. Gymnastics was amazing. Softball, a lot of really, really fun opportunities to spend some time with your student and also to spend some time on campus. So there are some benefits to you to joining IPTAY with things like gymnastics where tickets are hard to come by, but certainly don't rule out attending other Clemson sporting events.
Agreed. Let's see. One quick clarification before we move on. Did some follow-up for a couple of you all who had asked about parking permits for incoming students. Just message folks in that office who confirmed that July 22nd is when new students will be able to purchase those. So that link that we sent in the chat earlier will still be the website that they'll want to use for that. They'll register their license plate to make sure that they are registered as a vehicle on campus, and that's how they will buy their permit for the next academic year. So July 22nd is the first day that they can begin doing that. Another one here, let's see. Question about doing summer start. Is there a temporary storage company to hold items so they don't have to bring them home if out of state? Yes, I would say that we've heard from several students from Summer Start and Summer Start staff over the summer about that option. All-in storage is the one that I know off the top of my head, but I think there are several local options that will do that. I've also heard from students who will go in on a unit with their fellow Summer Start students to kind of make the most of that cost expenditure. So yes, definitely would look at different options around campus. students in CFAB, if y'all have specific recommendations, welcome to throw those in, but All-In is the one that I've heard the most reference, I should say. All right. Flying into Greenville this weekend for orientation, which is Monday and Tuesday. Anything we need to know about ahead of time? I have some thoughts, certainly. OAs, anything you would say in addition to information that will certainly come in an email? Any high-level thoughts you would offer to folks coming in for Ready, Set, Roar this last week?
I would maybe recommend getting there kind of not early, but on time, I would say, right when we say, right when registration opens, because sometimes the lines can get a little bit longer. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure we are at max capacity for these last 2 sessions. So it's going to be a bigger session. So just maybe getting there so you don't have to stand in the line to get your name tag and get your housing keys. And also just come ready. It's a long day. I mean, it's a fun day, but it's a long day. So just be ready. It's a lot of information, but it's truly a really fun experience. I've loved experiencing it. I think now this will be the 10th time I experience it on Monday and Tuesday. So it's truly been such a fun summer. So just come ready. I mean, that's about what I would say.
Agreed. CFAB,
Um,
any thoughts? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So I would say, so just to kind of alleviate any worries or concerns, I would really recommend parking in R9. That is the parking lot that is designated for orientation. So we'll have shuttles like in the morning if you are able to make it to R9, we'll have shuttles that will take you exactly where you need to go. Some folks in the past have been parking outside of the Burke Center. And we're just not always too sure about how parking services will handle that. And just to alleviate any issues that might come about, it would just be best to park in that parking lot and then shuttle will get you guys where you need to be.
Great tips, great tips. So in addition to what our OAs have offered, I would say you will get an email. You and your student will get an email 1 day prior to, 5 days out and 1 day prior to the session that you are attending that has a lot of this information. Highlights are definitely parked in that R9 lot. We've got shuttles running all day, making sure that you can get where you need to go. Definitely don't want to risk getting a ticket or getting towed by parking in the wrong place anywhere else. So definitely want to encourage you to park in that R9 lot. The other piece would be please, please, please download that CU Events app. You all, I'm sure, will tire of us saying that, but it does have the fully detailed schedule for the Ready, Set, Roar session, and then many events after Ready, Set, Roar that you'll attend. So Family Weekend, which we mentioned, for the Students Welcome Week, many other events that our office hosts throughout the year. We really rely on that app to have all the most accurate information. So you as parents and families have a kind of specific track of programming that you attend at Ready, Set, Roar, and that's denoted that way on the app and shows you how that is different from what your students will experience. So all of this, of course, we will share again with you in person once you're here, but those would be the biggest 2 pieces, I would say. We'll send a link linking to the download app that I'm referencing, but it's CU Events, so Clemson University Events app. It's our branded guidebook app. There is a desktop version of that as well if you want to view that same information on a computer, but it's that Clemson University Events app. And then if you type in Ready, Set, Roar, that will get you to the correct guide for the session that you are attending.
And going off, oops, sorry. And
I was
going
just
off of that, oh, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I was just going to say that don't worry about those shuttles because the shuttles are actually really large, comfortable, air-conditioned buses. So, and they run regularly. You wouldn't have much time to wait. So definitely park in the designated areas and enjoy a nice, comfortable ride on the shuttle.
Yes, so going off of that, I saw a question in there that I feel like should be answered. There is housing that is guaranteed, but it is only for the students during Ready, Set, Roar. So if you're coming as a guest, we do not have there won't be housing for you on campus. And another thing I also want to say is about the CU Events app that we just mentioned. Please make sure your student has it downloaded because that will also be used later on their first couple weeks for Welcome Week. So a lot of our events through Welcome Week will also be through that app. So just make sure that app is very important for especially your first semester freshman year.
just sent a link to download the app, either version of that download, depending on what phone you have, as well as a link to a YouTube tutorial where our very own Robin Stringer walks you through every possible function of the CU Events app and exactly how to navigate that for events here on campus. So definitely would recommend that video as well. All right, let's see. Question about move-in on August 17th. Will she miss a ton of activities? I would not worry about that. Our Welcome Week programming runs from August 14th to the 21st. We do that in an effort to make sure that there are activities and opportunities to engage for students, starting with the earliest move-in date and then also looping in folks who are moving in a little bit later towards the end of that week. We'll have some sort of social opportunity, several, I should say, each evening of that week, whether that's movie night or silent disco or glow in the dark golf. But then anything beyond that, we really want to make sure that all students are attending. So our new student convocation, our welcome rally, Clemson Leader Day, our athletic showcase, our class photo on the field, any larger kind of everyone events, if you will, those happen later on in the welcome week schedule. So would not fret there. I will also go ahead and plug that our final webinar, Final Tiger Talk on August 6th, features that welcome week schedule. So a portion of that, our staff member Jordan Morrell will join us and walk through that schedule in detail. Let's see here. Students, can you all offer advice on your class schedule? So the way I'm reading this, particularly how you chose your classes, how you manage that time during the week, any tips that you would offer?
Yeah, of course. I would say 15 to 16 credit hours is like kind of a perfect type of schedule for a student. It's easy to maintain. If a student does want to challenge themselves, then like 19 credit hours, but I definitely would not recommend. Also, like prepare a student that they're not going to have their ideal schedule. Sometimes, depending on what time they register for, it's going to be full, or the class they wanted, there's like an error, either it's not their major. There's tons of things that can come into play where they can't get the class they want. So they're prepared for that and to kind of go out their comfort zone with different classes. I would say, like, for me, I'm not a morning person, so I would like avoid kind of really early morning classes. I'll go for more like mid-morning, afternoon. But sometimes 8 a.m. classes are inevitable. I would say prepare. Time management wise, for Clemson, oh my gosh, Clemson campus, it's 15 minutes from like each kind of academic hall. There we go. Those are the words. It's 15 minutes away, so it's easy to get to class between points. Yeah, so it's pretty easy to manage.
Yes, I would just definitely, especially, I mean, registration I know is going on right now for freshman students. So I would definitely just prepare them for, I know there's a lot of students that plan ahead, which we always recommend doing. Do that for every semester you have classes, but just know, especially your first semester freshman year, that plan ahead, it's a nice tool. We hope it works, but most of the time it is not. So just be prepared that a lot of times the classes you want, the times you want, like, it might not happen. So I know that there's a lot of people like, oh, I don't want class on Friday. Just be really flexible with your advising, people trying to help you just get into class. Because at the end of the day, it may not be at the time you want it, but we really care about just getting credits on so that you're moving closer to graduation.
Yeah, I was just kind of gonna say what Octavia mostly mentioned. Just kind of, I know freshman year it's kind of a little bit more difficult, having choices and options with your classes, but just kind of the students knowing themselves, like if they know they're not gonna want to be a morning person, like maybe try and get those later classes. We've all been helping out with registration this past week and also a few weeks ago. And I kind of tell my students when there are some choices, like an 8 a.m. versus like a 12:20, like I just kind of express to them, like, do you want to get your classes out of the way? I'm personally a student who just likes to get up super early. I actually don't mind the 8 a.m.s. I like to get like an 8 a.m., maybe a 9:05 right after that, 2 or 3 classes right in the morning, and then I'll have the rest of my day. To just kind of have the rest of my day to myself, do whatever I choose. I also know some students who enjoy going to class, then having a break, and then having another class. And during that time, they'll like go to the library, they might go to like the dining halls, things like that. Just kind of thinking about, it's hard to do it going into your freshman year. So I would definitely just recommend like them definitely reflecting after the first semester when they go to make their second semester schedule, just kind of thinking how it went, thinking if they enjoyed those classes, if they wanted to change it up a little bit. And after students register, they can't make changes right away, but on July 23rd is when that will open back up for them to make edits to their schedules and things like that. That's also when us upperclassmen can also make changes to our schedules again. So I would definitely just reiterate to your students to kind of be mindful of that. Definitely I would recommend them all go back in and kind of look around, see if there's any other classes they might hope to get into. But just really stressing to make sure they don't touch anything. They might not mean to, or an accident. But if they do drop a class, us students will pick it up pretty fast. So just making sure that you're kind of being very mindful about when they're editing their schedule, only dropping a class if they know they're going to pick another one right up. And I would also recommend, this is what I like to tell everyone about the Coursical app. I'll throw that in the chat, or John, if you could add that for me, or so that's an app that a ton of students use. All of us continuing students are big fans of it. So I really try and get incoming students to download that as well. So that app will allow incoming students to connect right to Clemson University and track the classes. So you can exactly type in what course they're looking at. It'll come up with all the sections, all the times, things like that. So then they can click it and they'll click track. It'll be a little switch and they can click track. So that will notify them on their phone if a seat in that class opens up. So they'll just get a notification. The thing about that is really nice is that you don't have to be on your laptop constantly checking. You'll just get a text and then super quick they can pull out their device and try and get that seat in that class. Right now I have like 8 courses that I'm tracking. So a lot of the upperclassmen use that as well, just to be mindful so they don't have to constantly be on their laptop.
And one tip, don't drop a class until you add one first, because if you can't add the class, it can change the number of hours you have. So you just want to add, then drop.
Julia, another one for you here. Anything specific that you would recommend for students from the Northeast?
Let me think. So I'm from New York. One thing this might be a silly thing to assume, but I just assumed that it was always hot down here, always hot all the time. So I didn't bring a winter coat of any kind. And that is something I definitely learned was just not very smart. I will say during our winter months here before we kind of leave for that Christmas break, it does get pretty chilly, especially at night. I had a lot of late night labs and things like that. So I definitely recommend like just remembering that it does get cold here. You are going to need winter clothes. Also, this is just kind of not really like a Northeast specific, but just kind of general for everyone. Clemson's campus doesn't have the best design when it comes to raining a lot. Our campus floods very, very frequently. So something I learned pretty quick was that you're gonna want to get some type of like rain boots or just like small little like rubber boots that your students can wear to classes. Because our campus does flood pretty quick. And so the water will stack up, especially with a lot of our stairs and a lot of our hills on campus and things like that. So that's just a tip I thought as well.
Right, let's see. Just added that Coursical app link for a couple of you who were wondering about that one. Let's see. A couple questions about knowing your students' PO box information. Just reached out to our friends in Clemson Home for confirmation there. It does sound like they will have that information between now and move-in. So they will be able to see that information between now and move-in. And when that is decided and ready, that should populate in your students' housing portal. So I know we've got a lot of portals at Clemson. The housing portal, the one that they use to make all of those selections and go through their housing process, is where they should continue to check for that PO box information. Let's see, a couple of questions about bringing a bike. You can do that. Always, if one of you doesn't mind dropping the link to the e-bike/bike share information on the parking and transportation website, that will have a little bit more of that information and those details. We've got some students on a previous team of mine who loved the bike share program and rode their bike all over Clemson's campus, and definitely would recommend that option as well. Looks like we've got folks answering the last couple here. All right, last one that I'm seeing that is still open is, can students get ADHD medication at Redfern? My strongest assumption is yes. Shay, do you know if that is the case?
I'm assuming that that is the case. That's not what we have had to do because we are local, but it's my understanding that prescription medication is available through Redfern. So I'm assuming that would include ADHD medication.
All right, and then let's hit this last question, one that we get often as well, but thinking ahead to off-campus housing in the second year, can you all share perspectives on how early to start that process?
Yeah, sure. So I personally am living at the Pier next year. I actually already got my keys and stuff. I moved in July. But I would recommend don't look for housing I'll be looking. Ask your students to look for ones that they're interested in and ones they think they can see themselves living in. But I wouldn't recommend signing leases until winter break time, maybe a little bit even after, just to make sure the people they're signing leases with are people they truly want to live with. I've heard a lot of people, I have friends that signed in October with people they thought were going to be their favorite people in the world. And I mean, we met these people 2 months ago. So, I mean, you want to make sure the people that you live with are truly people you can see yourself living with and understanding that you're going to be sharing that space with them for an entire year, not just it's going to be you're living with them all your sophomore year. So I would say give time to make sure the people they live with are people the people that they choose to live with are people they truly want to live with, not just they want to sign a lease and find somewhere to live because you're so nervous you're not going to find somewhere. Because there's people, you'll always go to find somewhere to live in Clemson. It may not be the one that your student wants the most, but I know someone that just signed a lease that's one of the OAs here. She signed one in June. So don't worry about not finding somewhere to live because you will find somewhere. It's just whether or not it's the one that they want.
I think John gave some good advice about getting to know the people that you want to live with before you sign a lease. But if you are very particular, if your student is very particular about where they want to live, then I would contact that place as soon as possible and find out what their deadlines are, because you may have to decide, is it more important that I live in this place, or is it more important who I'm living with? Because some of the prime places or the more popular places, they will be snapped up quicker than others. Closer in is more expensive than out, but outside of the campus, further out. But most of the apartment complexes are on bus lines, which is helpful. Campus parking, is kind of hard to get. So if they are willing to ride a bus in from their apartment, then that would be a really good benefit too.
I just add to both their points, there's plenty of housing available. But if you want to be in a particular unit or particular complex, and you want to be in a 2-bedroom unit and they only have 10 2-bedroom units, then there's only 10 2-bedroom units at that complex. And once they're gone, they're gone. So I think if you're coming in for fall family weekend, if you come in on Thursday, maybe do a little work on the internet before coming in for that and go drive around and look at 4 or 5 so that you have an idea. And you can kind of follow along with that complex as to their process. And again, make sure that your student gets the solution they're looking for. But very important to get the roommate right.
Another thing about that, I just saw a question pop in. So the reason that a lot of students do look off campus, their sophomore year and up is that Clemson does not guarantee housing for sophomores and juniors and seniors, only for those first incoming students. So I know that was a question. However, there are some sophomores that do live on campus. So I know particularly like honors students have an opportunity to stay. And we do have our Dalfit Hills apartments that are also an option for upper graduate students as well as sophomores if they are looking to stay on campus. Those applications will come out sometime in the fall, kind of toward the winter months. One thing that kind of students think about when trying to look into that is that students will not hear if they received a spot in the apartments until about January, February. So that is kind of a reason why some students don't choose that route. They feel like that is too late to hear back. As a lot of our panelists have said, personally, I think it's totally okay to wait. There are so many options. If they're looking for something pretty specific, then they might want to do it earlier, but I definitely wouldn't stress about it super soon.
All right, finishing up the last couple here. I know we had a couple questions about processes for athletes. Bit of a complicated answer there in terms of moving. They've got some other things that they manage depending on their team, their coach, that process. And so our best advice would be to talk directly to that coach to make sure that you are following whatever process has been set up for them as well. All right. Looking at the time here, 1 second. John, let's go ahead and move to our last slide. Again, any questions that we did not get to or were not able to provide quite as thorough a response to, we will make sure to follow up with any additional context. All the links, again, to the resources that we've talked about here tonight, you can find in that chat for more information. I will also say that if you go to our Clemson Family Programs YouTube page to look at our previous Tiger Talks, we have done one that covers the entire move-in process with our Clemson home staff, and then one that talks through all things parking and transportation. As well as our very first one, which covered the orientation and course registration process. So for those of you who had questions a little bit more specific to your scenario about any of those areas of campus, would definitely recommend going back and watching those as well. Our final Tiger Talk, as I mentioned, will take place on August 6th, Next Steps for Success. So we will spend that time talking about the Welcome Week schedule in a little bit more detail, the Center for Career and Professional Development and some opportunities that office has upcoming in this first semester for your student, and then the Academic Success Center. So a couple of resources that we mentioned here tonight, we'll get to go a little bit more in depth and learn what resources they have to offer, and then particularly in the first couple of weeks of school, what your students can expect from each of those areas. Final reminder, again, this webinar has been recorded, so as soon as we are able to get it processed and ready for you here in a few days, we will publish that online and then send out a final email through the Clemson Parent and Family Experience portal with that recording. appreciate your time and your attention and your questions here tonight. And until next time, go Tigers.
Go
Thank you all.
Tigers.
Good night, everyone.
Night. Thank you.
Thank you.